Someone close to me just reached out about their relationship. They're in a romantic relationship, having issues with it because Lord knows romantic relationships are not easy. Some of them are absolutely meant to be, but here's a fact of life. Just because something's meant to be doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be easy. So don't let Hollywood, don't let movies, don't let fairy tales, rom-coms illustrate to you that, oh, just because it's meant to be, it's going to be easy. Absolutely not. There are so many things in our world, romantic relationships and otherwise, that are meant to be, that will take challenge and struggle. Okay. Here's what I told them about their relationship. And this applies to every single romantic relationship that we have. I want to speak in analogies. Imagine having a big ship in the harbor. And I think everybody kind of knows what a tugboat is. You know what a tugboat is? So you have this big ship, tugboat, tugging the big boat out in the harbor. Okay, so here's the analogy. A relationship is like this huge ship we're tugging together. So if you're in a relationship with another person, you become two tugboats, tugging this relationship along. And if each of these tugboats are required, and it's necessary of them, to pull their equal weight, what happens when one of the tugboats doesn't? Now, sometimes one of the tugboats could get sick or ill, and the other tugboat has to compensate for that lack of, presence. But for no other reason, when one of these tugboats is just not contributing, they're not pulling their own weight, they're not working, they're not contributing financially, they're emotionally distant. Well, imagine if these two tugboats, one of them all of a sudden just stopped working, and the other tugboat was left by itself to pull the weight of that relationship. I asked this person, I go, what would happen to that other tugboat? They said, it'll burn out. I said, absolutely correct. That's absolutely what will happen. I think it's important to remember when you're in a relationship, the person that you're in the relationship with is either going to be your tugboat or your anchor. And that's what I told this person. I go, well, maybe you need a threshold. Maybe you need to, see how long you would put up with this person's inability to show up, inability to contribute, how much you're going to put up with their stuff. Maybe you give them a little bit of grace. Maybe you work with them a little bit. Or you cut them loose. You cut the relationship loose and take care of yourself. But how do we determine that? Well, I want to give you what's called the spirit relationship test. So when I sit with somebody who I pick up on the fact that they're having relationship problems, Spirit has a test for them. And I want to give that to you today. And, maybe this isn't for you. Maybe this is for somebody in your life that is having problems with their fellow tugboat. But let's say I was talking to you about your relationship. This is the question that I would ask you. If you had a child, sister, brother, best friend, that was in a relationship with the person you're in a relationship with, would you be happy for them? Yes or no? Not yes and no. When I ask this question, it's necessary for the person to say yes or no. Not both, not kind of, well, one day it's this, it's that. No, you got to figure out, if your kid had this person that they were in a relationship with, would you be happy for them? Now I'll use my example. Like my husband, if I had a friend, sister, brother, child that was in a relationship with a person like that, my God, would I ever be happy for them? But I get a fair amount of no's to that question. Now, if the answer is yes, and you have a partner that you'd be so happy to have in a relationship with your kid, best friend, what have you, then you cherish that, you nurture it, you show up like a tugboat. But if the answer is no, here's the follow-up question. Usually I sit with people for an hour, hour and a half during their session. And during that session, I'll ask them, I'm like, hey, this question, but at the end of our session, if you found out that the person you're in a relationship with, the one that you wouldn't be happy that your child was in a relationship with, if you found out that person was dead, where would your heart be? If you found out that person had passed away in a car accident, where would your heart be? I get a fair share of, I'd be relieved. And I'm like, okay, well, that tells you what you need to do with the relationship. If I get a fair share of, oh my God, I'd be devastated. There are plenty of people who wouldn't be happy in that relationship, but would be devastated if they lost their person. Well, that speaks to how much calibration is necessary in that relationship, how much that relationship needs to be calibrated and fixed. That requires communication, perhaps therapy, whatever that is, but we only have one life. And I know a lot of people who, personally and in professional ways, they're in relationships with people because they'd rather be treated poorly than no way at all. Let's see what Tarot has to say. I think when we get the Four of Cups, this is important because we can be really dejected at what we don't have. We're not looking at what we do have. But sometimes when we're feeling upset or dejected, well, if you're going in the wrong direction, what I've noticed is that our ancestors, our beloved dead, the spirits that are around us can put their foot on our neck. They'll make us uneasy. They'll pressure us to move in a separate way. So I have to ask you, if you're in an unhealthy relationship and you feel this sense of like, oh, I'm so challenged, what have you, then maybe it's your loved ones pushing on you to get out of it. It's something that you have to think of because we only have one life. And the one thing I know about dying that's not great at all is regret. So many people pass away every day wishing they had done something different, wishing they had been in a different relationship, or wishing they hadn't put so much energy into a person that wasn't putting energy back into them. Remember, if you're in a relationship, you've got a fellow tugboat. And my question for you, are they a tugboat or are they your anchor?